Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. My name's Charles Green, and here at Belatrix Software I'm responsible for creating our thought leadership. And here at Belatrix Software we frequently publish reports on the key trends in software development, covering topics ranging from Agile development to the Internet of Things. But today we want to bring together much of the research we've been publishing over the past 12 months and also to produce some new insights and to explore the future of software development over the next 12 to 18 months, as well as giving you some concrete suggestions and advice what you can do to prepare for the changes ahead. So firstly, many thanks for everyone for taking the time out of your days today to join us. And for those of you, just very briefly, for those of you not familiar with Belatrix, we are a leading provider of software development services with expertise in product and mobile application development. We have development centers in Peru and Argentina. And I should note before we get started that we will be live tweeting throughout the webinar today with the hashtag PredictionsBSF. So you can follow along with Twitter, but also use the hashtag to ask any questions that you may have. And you can also ask questions by using the chat box on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. And we have some dedicated time at the end to take questions, but I will do my best to take them during the course of the presentation as well. But without further ado, I want to jump right into the content and to really, firstly, to set the stage. That over the past year, we've seen the rapid emergence of new technologies, some of which have seen limited adoption as enterprises really kind of worked out how best to utilize them, while others, such as augmented reality, became mainstream at a lightning pace. So within this changing business and technology environment, we have examined what we can expect to see in the world of software in 2017. And for this webinar, there were many candidates, from the Internet of Things to developments in security and privacy to integration technologies such as WSO2, which really help organizations make sense of ever greater amounts of data and information. However, after analyzing all of these and looking at them and deciding what is going to have the greatest impact in the next 12 to 18 months, we distilled our thoughts into 4 key predictions, which we can see in the next slide. And firstly, our first prediction is that mobile testing is going to reach new levels of importance, and in particular we're going to be talking about the challenges of mobile testing, that even though mobile today is ubiquitous, we're all using mobile technologies, that mobile testing is still a significant challenge for many organizations. Secondly, we're going to talk about that a plethora of new technologies are emerging, and they're going to be providing new business opportunities. And here in particular we're going to dive deeper into augmented reality and how augmented reality can provide new opportunities, new ways in which you can engage your customers. Thirdly, we're going to talk about the rapid maturing of machine intelligence and artificial intelligence, machine learning, and then the narrowing of the gap between what companies want to do and what they are doing. And here I'm going to share some survey data from our machine learning survey, which we conducted just a few weeks ago, so some very fresh data that I'll be able to share with you. And fourthly, that businesses will continue in their agile and continuous delivery journeys. And again, here we'll be looking a bit more detail about why you should be interested in implementing continuous delivery, why some of the leading technology organizations such as Facebook are using continuous delivery, and then provide you with some high-level tips for getting started with continuous delivery. So firstly, starting with mobile testing. And now, given the importance of mobile and mobile technologies to organizations, it may seem strange that mobile testing is actually still viewed as a relatively new skill, and also that we've included it as a prediction for 2017. However, it was really one piece of evidence that really stuck in our minds, and that was that the data from the World Quality Report this year, which found that while many organizations are making use of mobile solutions, mobile testing itself is still viewed as a relatively new skill in the development lifecycle. And actually there are numerous challenges that organizations face with mobile testing. And this is the data from one of their charts which they published. And here we can see that the number one challenge that organizations face with mobile testing is not having the right testing process or methodology in place. You can see there here at the top 48% in 2016 saying that they do not have the right testing. It's nearly half of organizations that responded to this survey, and that's significantly higher than in 2015 and 2014. And that's arguably, as I'll be discussing a little bit shortly, is arguably because of the increased complexity and the greater challenges that organizations face, particularly in light as with device fragmentation, with operating system fragmentation. Secondly, that they don't have this. There are not enough mobile testing experts. 46% here saying that this is a challenge for them, that they can't find people with the right expertise to test their mobile applications. And thirdly, that they don't have an in-house testing environment. As again, 46% this year stating that they don't have that, so they're having to look at different ways to do their testing. The good news here on the survey data is that just at the very bottom there, just 1% stated that they're not doing mobile testing. So that's one positive that we can take out of this survey result. So it's really a strange situation where mobile is ubiquitous. Companies are engaging with their customers via mobile, and yet they're ill-prepared to test their mobile environment. So in 2017, this situation has to change. And because another reason before that is because really to compound the issues that we see here, organizations are faced with the continued device and operating system fragmentation, which I briefly mentioned. And this fragmentation, while positive for consumers as it gives them great choice of what handset or operating system they want to use, creates continual challenges for developers. For example, just to give you some data behind that, in November 2016, Android Nougat is installed on just 0.3% of devices, Marshmallow on 24%, and even version 4 Jelly Bean is still installed on 13% of devices. So what should you do in light of this? Well, firstly, it's important to know that an effective and proactive strategy for addressing mobile testing will involve Agile QA practices. By involving your QA engineers in the product development process from the very start, you can ensure that you're building in quality. Meanwhile, as was stated in the past, another critical step is to raise the importance of mobile testing in the organization. That those companies developing great mobile apps and the mobile apps that their customers love are usually those that recognize the importance of testing and how an effective QA strategy can help lower your risk while improving business outcomes. So also make sure you're using mobile testing best practices. That applies whether or not you are creating a native app or a web or a hybrid application. It is critical to test the various scenarios which you will then want to include in your overall testing plan. So to tackle the challenge of device fragmentation, you can use both real devices as well as emulators. I suggest looking at the Belatrix website and the blogs that we've published which cover mobile testing best practices, whether that is using smoke testing to help determine if there are inconsistencies between operating system versions, or if you're using testing for mobile web and applications, then you'll need to use functional regression testing as well as non-functional testing. So a variety of different tools which you can use and which should be part of your overall testing plan. So that's our first prediction, that mobile testing is going to become significantly more important for organizations. Secondly, our second prediction is that a plethora of new technologies are going to emerge to provide new business opportunities. Now, there are a whole host of new technologies which are emerging, which are gaining prominence, whether you're talking about augmented reality, virtual reality, open source, machine learning, the Internet of Things, all of which really garnered a lot of attention during 2016. And we expect businesses to really be making very significant investments in new technologies in the future. But to give just one example of how fast new technologies are emerging and then being adopted, we can look to the example of Pokemon Go, which brought scale with over 20 million daily users in the US alone, and real interest in augmented reality. And reflecting this interest, the analyst company Forrester Research believes that augmented reality is one of the top 5 technologies that's going to start to change the world within the next 3 to 5 years. So what really Pokemon Go did was it made people much more aware of the potential of augmented reality and how augmented reality can help you engage customers in different ways by using new technologies. And just to give an example of that and some of the work that we've done here at Belatrix, within augmented reality, we worked with a fintech company that wanted to revolutionize the payment experience for its customers using new technologies such as augmented reality. And to do this, we implemented a solution that involved developing a mobile banking platform with the functionality that included an augmented reality map. So if you were a customer of this fintech company or this bank, you could easily find the nearest ATM using markers identified by your cell phone. And that's just one further example of how new technologies are being implemented rapidly by organizations today. And organizations really have to do this because of the challenges being brought about by digital disruption are causing difficulties among enterprises in almost every industry, whether you are a company similar to Walmart in the retail space, or whether or not you're in travel and aviation. Every company is really being challenged to use new technologies. You see, for example, with Walmart, that they're closing stores, they bought an e-commerce company for $3.3 billion this year, because they recognize that the importance of new technologies, and it's clear that there are challenges in moving to this digital world where these new technologies are really coming to the fore very rapidly. So what should you do to get a handle on this? Well, firstly, we know for certain that the emergence of such diverse technologies are going to continue to occur at faster and faster rates. Customers have already shown their willingness to adopt new technology at breathtaking speed when it is shown to provide a clear benefit and the barrier to adoption is low. So this is going to put increased pressure on CIOs and CTOs to ensure that their technology organizations and product development efforts keep up with the changing environment. By bringing together devices, apps, data, and combining these within an individual customer-specific context, new services can be created. So what we're seeing is that leading organizations are looking to create personas, or they are trying to use or using customer journey maps in order to identify situations where these technologies can be used. Meanwhile, the research company, Forrester Research again, they recommend evaluating your technology expenditure. And you should do that really between doing that which is spent on internal systems, what it calls IT, and that which is spent on technology that will impact your customers and partners, what it calls business technology. And those companies which are best adapting to digital disruption and the increasing demands of customers are those which are already spending about 1/3 of their technology budget on business technology and are moving more and more of their budget towards that technology which is impacting their customers and their partners. So again, that's our second prediction. And now moving to our third prediction, which is all about machine learning and artificial intelligence. In November of this year, Belatrix conducted a survey to better understand how machine learning and artificial intelligence is being used by organizations, as well as some of the challenges they face. I want to share with you some of the key results here. But you can also download our infographic by clicking on the link in the chat box, which one of my colleagues will share with you now. But we'll share the link with you in the chat at the moment. But what was most telling from the results of our survey data was that 81% of respondents believe that machine learning is going to have some or significant impact on their organization within the next 5 years. And most believe that it will have the greatest impact in improving operational efficiency and automating business processes. But however, when we dove deeper into this, and when we asked about the status of machine learning projects, the data was very interesting, because while it was clear that many were interested, few have started. And this is the results of the data that I'm showing you now on the slide. That just 18% have already started a machine learning initiative, while 40% are investigating but they haven't yet started, and a further 42% have no plans at the moment. So this really reflects the gap between what companies want to do and what they're investigating and what they're currently doing, where just 18% are currently using machine learning in some form or another. So we believe in 2017, our prediction of 2017 is that this gap is going to narrow significantly and become much smaller as more and more companies conduct actual pilots, or they implement machine learning in their organizations. And you can really look to see what organizations are doing. You can look, for example, if we look at Google, for example, which has really led the way in implementing machine learning in the real world. So even if you're not creating machine learning solutions, you're going to be using it in your day-to-day work. Already Google uses machine learning in areas as diverse as improved image analysis, translation, and even better scheduling of business appointments. So there are already very clear examples of where you can be using machine learning. And just to give you some examples of some of the work that we've been doing here at Belatrix, we've been using neural networks to predict the risk of personnel attrition based on the information that we already have in our HR systems and our project management and our training systems. And we've also been helping clients make sense of thousands of IoT devices that are collecting data every few seconds, data that can be used to reduce maintenance costs or improve logistics or react more effectively to outside environmental changes like weather and other aspects. But we also believe that some of the most interesting parts of machine learning are going to involve those parts which we're not yet considering. So we're particularly excited, for example, about the potential of machine learning in weird places that many organizations are not yet considering, but may come to have a transformational impact. For example, what could the impact of machine learning be if software could learn to test itself, or could it at least learn what will be the biggest impact of bugs or are the most common? But that's still a little way off looking at those kind of aspects, but we believe that's going to happen pretty soon. So what should you do about machine learning? Well, firstly, we suggest that it's necessary to identify those tasks which rely heavily on data and can then be automated. And if we can just go to the slide on what you should do about machine learning. So really firstly about identifying those tasks which, as mentioned, which rely heavily on data. So you may well want to consider hiring a data scientist or a machine learning practitioner to start analyzing and evaluating the data that you currently have. Realize that automation is a trend that's not new, but what is new is the capability for automation and cognitive computing to take an ever greater part of knowledge-based work. Also in our machine learning survey, we found that already there are a wide range of tasks that organizations are using machine learning for, whether that's to help collaboration between teams, to implement predictive models to better serve customers, or use machine learning to improve search and responsiveness. So there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of examples of what companies are doing. And as Andrew Ng, the head of Baidu's AI team, has pointed out, if a typical person can do a mental task with less than 1 second of thought, we can probably automate it using AI either now or in the near future. So that kind of gives you a sense of what is possible and what kinds of tasks you should be looking at. Spotify, just given a further example, Spotify, for instance, uses machine learning in a specific area to modify its automatic music playlists depending on what the listener is doing. So, for example, if you're running, then the system can tell that you're running and it can play music which has a faster beat, so it matches what you're doing and what your activity is. So it's particularly important to look for a specific niche or a specific problem that you can solve with machine learning. But now I want to look to our fourth prediction, and that is that businesses are going to continue in their agile and continuous delivery journeys. Now, agile development has already found widespread adoption by organizations. It's not something which is really new. Everyone is familiar with agile, we're familiar with the benefits that using agile can bring to organizations. However, continuous delivery has so far lagged the adoption of agile, although in our experience many organizations are already starting on their continuous delivery journeys. Continuous delivery is already the approach which is driving successful technology teams at organizations ranging from Facebook to Etsy to eBay. But I think it is fair to say that the level of maturity in organizations does vary widely. But there are some very clear benefits, from business agility to speed to higher quality. The ability to make smaller incremental changes means you can stay close to customers and respond quickly to customer demands. So what should you do? How can you get started with continuous delivery? Well, firstly, as we discussed in our continuous delivery webinar earlier this year, even if an organization does not fully achieve continuous delivery, the mere pursuit of it will make your organization better. And I certainly recommend you looking and taking a listen to the continuous delivery webinar, which has a wealth of information. And another aspect which we discussed in the webinar was that adopting continuous delivery ultimately is going to involve organizational change, both in terms of the culture and the structure, but that shouldn't discourage you from making these initial steps on your journey. And actually the issue of cultural change is one of the most common challenges for organizations with continuous delivery. In some instances, for example, developers may take the perspective that if there is a quality assurance team for testing, why should they be the ones who start writing tests and spend less time on developing, which is a part of what continuous delivery involves. And however, in our experience, once developers really start with the process and they can see the results of their work immediately, then it helps change their perspective and it helps bring that cultural change along into place. So really to get started with continuous delivery, we recommend setting a long-term goal and begin working in increments that are sustainable for your company. Empower your people and promote teamwork as you integrate your teams. Promote continuous learning that builds trust and transparency on the team and recognizes each individual's contribution. We recognize that that many organizations do have legacy systems, and the task of implementing continuous delivery can often seem insurmountable. And change is hard in any organization, but it's particularly hard when you have these legacy systems in place. So here, our recommendation is simply start small and put together a team in place with your best people, and then split off a sprint team which has 30 days to produce concrete results. And that means very quickly you can quickly see some tangible impact of your efforts. And based on these initial efforts, then you can gradually expand your efforts. So with that, that's really an overview of our research into the predictions for 2017. As I mentioned, we've discussed different aspects during the webinar. We've discussed augmented reality and new technologies. We've talked about the rapid maturing of machine intelligence and artificial intelligence and what that means. We've spoken about mobile testing being more and more important, and finally the aspects of agile and continuous delivery. So with that, I want to say thank you to everyone for participating in today's webinar. As mentioned, a recording will be available within the next 24 hours. And if you have any further follow-up questions that you would like to contact us with, please do reach out to me. You can see there my email on the slide. And with that, I'd like to say thanks again to everyone and wish everyone a very pleasant rest of the day.